Welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the only show by real fantasy football fans for real fantasy football fans. I am your host, 20-year fantasy veteran, Greg Reifsteck.
And I'm your co-host, a 10-year fantasy veteran, and also a fan of the Chicago Bears. Yes, we beat the Packers. Jenilee Borek is my name. And together we are the beauty
and the beast
of fantasy football experts.
So, what we want to show you right now is what victory looks like. So, Jenilee, wasn't that fun?
That was amazing. And, I couldn't participate in that part of the celebration because I was, filming and everything. Mm-hmm. But I participated in all the touchdown celebrations and everything like that. It was just an incredible night to be at a Bears bar.
And it was a surprising amount to celebrate about. Of course, 7 minutes into the game, we had the key injury of the game that made us even Steven. And I was talking to some Packer fans today, and they were still trying to pull the asterisk card. And I said, look, we had our backup in. And they pulled the whole, he had a week to practice. Well, you know what? Your backup should be ready. He shouldn't be ready to hold the clipboard. And Seneca Wallace just wasn't ready to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it was funny because I posted a picture on Facebook of us celebrating, and I actually put under it, okay, Packer fans, I'm waiting for the excuses on this one, because it was very even with the players that were injured from both teams. I mean, they have some defensive players out, we have some defensive players out.
Yeah.
They have some receivers out. We have Martellus Bennett's been playing with a knee injury and a little banged up. So it seemed like the injuries were pretty even across the board. And luckily, I didn't have any Packer fans respond. So I guess I have some friends that are being good sports.
Yeah, I was surprised. Prost was awfully quiet about the loss. He claims he's going to talk a lot on the podcast at blogtalkradio.com/GRR, which will be posting up about the same time we're posting this up on Wednesday. Let's get into the actual game. Bears won 27-20. We had McCown, who I said I thought would do well because of our line.
Yeah.
And thank goodness Aaron Rodgers wasn't a factor and Seneca Wallace came in. McCown, 22 for 41, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. A great fantasy showing if you had the super duper big balls to pick them up.
The upgrade to our line has really just made the biggest difference, I think personally, in our offense. It's just allowing the players that we have to use their talent. And he was amazing. I mean, he impressed me, and he took care of the ball.
Yep.
No interceptions, no fumbles. I think if you have a backup quarterback situation, that is so important that they don't turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. So, and then we also had Forte, of course, he balled out. He had 125 rushing yards, 170 all-purpose yards, a touchdown there. Marshall had 107 receiving yards, so he went over 100, which I haven't. That was nice to see, and a touchdown. So we were spreading the ball out, which is great.
And I had Forte in 2 of my leagues, so I got points too. And as I was saying, please, Jenilee, please, let me get some Jeffrey points. Let me get some Jeffrey points.
I said absolutely he
and
can
I
score.
Did 60 yards and a touchdown for Jeffrey. There were fantasy points on the other side of the ball too. Unfortunately, our run defense and our line up front still really sucks.
Terrible. And that's the linebackers. That's having those 2 young linebackers in. There was, once Eddie Lacy was past our defensive line, it was a free-for-all.
150-yard free-for-all and a touchdown. Really sad. Really sad. Starks, that damn run by Starks goes for 40 yards, and he runs up the gut and gets a touchdown. So that was the fantasy status of last night's game. And then, as you saw there was the partying. Us Bears fans, we haven't had a victory in Lambeau since 1997. This is to the Bears, damn it. Awesome.
It's been a long time. I know we won in 07, but that was at Soldier Field. So very long time to be losing up there. I heard that it was silent. I was listening to some Chicago radio today, and I heard that it was absolutely silent leaving that stadium.
I bet.
I mean, the fans were just, they had no idea what had just happened.
Well, they have no idea to act. I mean, Lovie Smith, what was the first thing he said when he became coach? I'm going to make sure, we beat the Packers every single time. You didn't do it, Lovie. It took Mark Trestman, the quarterback whisperer, the man that comes down from Canada. Great game plan, great play calling, a little bit of weirdness. We're still, he still lets Forte run up the middle a lot.
Still figuring it out.
Yeah, but he got the victory.
Yep. And actually, I was telling you a funny story earlier that I heard. Apparently, some Green Bay fans thought that the Bears didn't stand even an ounce of a chance. There was a woman that bet her husband, she's a Green Bay Packer fan, her husband is a Bears fan, and she bet him that the Bears would obviously lose. Well, the bet was that he could use his stun gun on her if the Bears won. So lo and behold, he did. The police were called out. They looked at the texts and everything on her phone and said, well, you did agree to this. You consented, basically, but he still got arrested, is facing maybe 6 years in jail, like a $10,000 fine. So it's an insane bet, but it's just, I thought it was hilarious that apparently she thought the Bears had zero chance, and then when her husband follows through on the bet, which is weird, she got upset, apparently. So
boredom breeds stupidity, as I say on my comedy show, and Prost, you got off easy. That's the bet we could have made with him, right?
Absolutely.
And you could have gotten to use a stun gun on Prost. Wouldn't that have been fun?
And we would have videoed it and showed all of you out there.
And we would have all gotten arrested. It would have been great accessory. We wouldn't be broadcasting next week.
Yeah,
We'd
he just has to do the Facebook picture.
Yes.
So
He definitely has to do the Facebook picture. So that was a great surprise win yesterday. I know you were going in cynical. I know a lot of fans were going in cynical.
I did not want to get excited. Even when we started doing okay, I did not want to get excited. I was like, oh man, watch us blow this. So
it was tense.
It was finally I got to exhale.
Yeah.
And we won and celebrate.
So. Cool. Speaking of surprises, this week we're still dealing with some bye weeks. Some people aren't going to get to play Tom Brady this week after his stellar fantasy showing last week, a ton of touchdowns, a ton of yards against the Steelers. But there were other surprises. A lot of them were stuck on the waiver wire, which was really shocking. A lot of people were like, who has this player? oh God, they're on my waiver wire. So now, all of a sudden, it's going to be either one of two things. They're either going to be a hot commodity and actually be good, or they're going to be one of Prost's one-hit blunders. So.
Right. Well, I know there were people that were scoring that I was like, who is this player?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never even heard their name.
Yeah.
Usually I know numbers of most all
Right.
players, and I'm like, okay, who is this person
Mm-hmm.
scoring sometimes 2 and 3 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Which was insane.
Yep.
So
why don't you lay?
I'm going to
a
lay
few
one.
on us?
Okay, I'm going to lay 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the one the Redskins had in Washington was Daryl Young. He's their fullback, and he scored 3 touchdowns. Who out there had him? Did any of you have him?
They all had Roy Helu. That's who they had.
Helu or Morris, right? You would
Yeah.
think Morris will get one.
Mhm.
He got one, but you're
Yeah.
going to think he's going to get the ball.
Right.
Or you think RG3 is going to run it in himself, and he
Mhm.
doesn't. So no, this guy, this random guy out there on all the waiver wires did.
Mhm.
And then the second one that I definitely noticed as well was Tim Wright of Tampa Bay. And he's considered a tight end and a wide receiver, so he kind of has 2 titles. He's done a little bit better in like 2 weeks, but he hasn't done anything earlier in the season. So like week 8, he went 5 for 48 and a touchdown. And then last week, he went 4 for 58 and a touchdown. So he's gotten touchdowns 2 weeks in a row. And he's another one that I'm sure because Mike Williams is out,
Right.
either, using him more. But I mean, Tim Wright, do any of you guys have him? Probably not.
No, and you're probably not going to pick him up unless you're like reading one of those insane sites, or who knows, maybe he'll be
I'm
a gamble of the
desperate
week.
in one of my leagues,
And you're
so
going to pick him up?
I don't know. He might be a gamble. I got to see who else is out there.
He might be a cash
I'm
gamble
missing
of the
a
week.
lot of receivers, and I have some injuries, so I'm in a little trouble.
We'll see, definitely. I have a few. Of course, the big one was Nick Foles. For crying out loud. 7 touchdowns, ties the record for the NFL record. Playing against the Raiders now, I of course went Terrell Pryor. You got points with Terrell Pryor, but everybody thought the Eagles' defense sucks. Raiders have Terrell Pryor. They're gonna go crazy on him. It was the exact opposite. The more and more I was just watching the bottom line, and then finally had to look up at the bar and watch the game. It was crazy. Just the Eagles just piling on every second. And this week, Nick Foles is going to be playing the Packers, who now have Seneca Wallace playing, and their defense is depleted. Maybe you'll pick him up because he was on every waiver wire of all 5 leagues, including ours.
Yeah, I was going to say, not many people had him. Actually, one of my dear friends, Trey Murphy, dropped him, had him, dropped him just this week.
Mhm.
And
For who? Your
for
favorite.
Wacko Flacco.
Your
He picked up
favorite.
Flacco, people Foles, and he even admitted, he said, I think that is the worst fantasy mistake I've ever made.
Mhm.
But, I mean, no one thought Foles 7 touchdowns.
Not
And he's not going to do that against Green Bay. So don't expect 7 touchdowns.
No, he's not going to get
Maybe
7 again.
2 or 3.
And the other surprise was the recipient of 3 of them, Riley Cooper. Crying out loud. Really? I mean, 5 for 139 yardage-wise. I played him the week before. I picked him up as a gamble, played him last week. He didn't do crap for me. Threw him back down on the waiver wire.
I think Foles likes throwing to him, though, more than Vic did.
Mm-hmm.
Which they ran the ball more anyways when Vic was at quarterback than when Foles was at quarterback. But I think for whatever reason, Foles has a little bit more chemistry with him. And that always happens. When you get new quarterbacks in, they have chemistry with different receivers and or tight ends, than other people. And that might be what's happening in Tampa Bay as well.
That happens in practice because they get less snaps. They start leading the team in practice. They maybe get 10 snaps. Let's see what you're going to do with it. And they don't throw to the stars all the time. That's how you develop people like Alshon Jeffrey. That's how you develop, Earl Bennett. That's how you develop those people. So, yeah, those were the two big, huge surprises of mine. So, are you ready with your real men this week?
Yes, absolutely. I have some bye week people for you guys because I looked and I'm in some trouble for bye weeks and there's some big people out. So
I'm doing that the same for my beasts too. It's a great philosophy. Where 2 more weeks we'll be done with the byes.
I know, I can't wait.
But there's only about 4 more weeks left before the playoffs, so hang in there. All right, here's Jenilee.
Let's do it.